Hello, hello. Welcome. I am so excited to be recording this video for you today. And we are going to be talking about unmoderated usability testing. And the reason that I want to cover this particular topic is one, because I get so many questions on it. And I want to clear up a lot of those questions and walk you through my actual flow that I use and how I set up different questions and tasks and scenarios when it comes to unmoderated usability testing. And the second reason is because unmoderated testing is so incredibly important. It is such an effective and efficient way to get data, but it is very easy to mess up. The reason I say that is because I've messed it up so much in the past, an incredible amount. And unfortunately, with unmoderated testing, it's a little bit of the garbage in, garbage out mentality. So if we're not really setting our tests up for success, then we are not going to get the best data. So I want to walk you through my flow and how I set up an unmoderated usability test. One thing that I did want to share with you is this guide. I have created this guide on writing the best unmoderated test questions and scenarios. And so within this guide, you will see everything that we talk through in the video. And I'm going to be doing this all live. So it's going to be almost like two parts. One is going to be the test setup, and the second part is going to be actually analyzing the data that comes through. So we are going to be doing a real unmoderated test here. So this guide really allows you to go through and understand how to set up the most successful test that you can when it comes to unmoderated usability testing. So I highly encourage you to start by reading this guide, especially steps 1 and 2, which is making sure that we are thinking about the intention and the goals behind the test, and how not only how we are going to get the best information from the participants, so making sure we're getting that right information, but how we're going to then bridge that into business impact. So steps 1 and 2 really talk about research goals, linking and defining business goals to the research, and how you can really start and set up your unmoderated test for as much success as possible. And in this guide, I have a bunch of different formulas. I have examples. I have charts that help you with models. I have fill in the blanks. I have mistakes, common mistakes. I also have tried to include B2C and B2B examples. And I would say that this is probably one of the most important parts of the guide. So you can find this under step 1, which is before you write a single question, being able to do these different things. So explaining which KPIs, knowing the user behavior, having a really clear user research goal, having clear success metrics, and having alignment with stakeholders that there is a real decision behind this particular test. So I really recommend reading through steps 1 and also steps 2, especially if you are not as familiar with writing strong research goals. So those will really help you with setting your test up for success. So let's dive in. And I apologize. The reason that we're doing this on Zoom versus what I usually use, which is Loom, is because I just spent 35 minutes recording a video on Loom and it crashed. So we are here on Zoom doing this all over again and hoping for the best. So today we're going to do an unmoderated test on EasyJet. So the reason I chose EasyJet is because I wanted first an easier audience to recruit from, B2C. A lot of people have experienced booking a flight before. So hopefully this will be a relevant and easy way for you to understand how I'm writing these tasks and how I'm writing these scenarios and why. And if you are in the B2B world, as I said, there are a bunch of examples in the guide that feature B2B goals and ideas and questions and tasks and scenarios. So if you are struggling, please check out that guide because it will definitely help you with using this concept in the B2B world. So we're using Userbrain today. Userbrain is awesome. It's a very easy way to set up unmoderated tests. So if that's something that you are interested in, please also check them out. They're really awesome and they're continuously evolving their platform. So we're going to go through part 1 right now, and that will be all of the test setup. So what I will do here is create a new test. We're going to use a website and we are going to call this EasyJet Booking Flow. and we just put in the test URL. And I apologize, I've had to be using incognito because it's really funny. I'm so sad that that video just like completely crashed because it was so funny. I hit a lot of errors on the EasyJet website, which was really interesting, but unfortunately it crashed. So I lost it, but I have to use incognito because my regular EasyJet is erroring out and I can't use it on my normal desktop for whatever reason. So we're going to use this EasyJet right here. We're going to put it in English. This is great. I would say ideally for an unmoderated test, you don't really want to go over 20 minutes. 15 minutes is probably a bit of a sweet spot. So I'm happy with this. It's just that after 20 minutes, especially unmoderated testing, people get really fatigued. It's quite hard. If you've never taken an unmoderated test, I really, really recommend that you do. I know they tend to screen out like UX people or product people, but if you do have the chance to do it, I would highly recommend it because it gives you a really good idea of what's on the other side. So we have here, we set this up, and now we're going to go into our tasks, which I love, straight into it. Let's get started. So we have 3 options of starting from scratch, creating with AI, and using a template. Because we're in an AI kind of world, I'm going to auto create this with AI. And then I have to give a website description. I would say, a flight booking website that allows users to search, compare, and book flights. Pretty straightforward. I don't really want to do hotels or experiences. I just want to do flights. So let's create that task. Okay, so we have gone through and look at that. Our tasks are ready. There's quite a bit here. So this is awesome. When it comes to AI generally, I am more than happy to use it as a starting point to avoid any sort of blank page syndrome and a jumping off point. But I usually want to go in and fine tune the questions or whatever AI has come up with. So as we see here, we have this task. We have quite a few tasks. We have rating scales too, which is fine. Some multiple choice rating scale and 2 written responses. Okay, cool. So we have this first task. Please remember to think out loud during your test or let us know if there's anything missing. You can input. So I don't know if they have like a welcome kind of page, if that makes sense. But I would probably like put this in like, thank you so much for your time today. Please remember to think out loud during your test and let us know if any information is missing. We will give you information to input if you have to sign up for anything. So that's a very important part, which is in my guide about giving people the relevant information. So I like to say this session, I don't like saying the word test, should take about 15 minutes to complete. Please remember to think out loud during your test and let us know if there's any information missing. We will give you information to input if you have to sign up for anything. Okay, so now take a look at the site and tell us what you think. You can scroll if you want, but please don't click on anything yet. What is the first thing you notice? What can you do? So for me, there's a bit too much here. So I would rewrite it to be a little bit less open-ended because I don't really need like EasyJet is pretty straightforward. So I would want this to be, just a bit more pointed because people kind of get like lost in these kinds of open-ended questions, especially with unmoderated testing. So I would say, please take a moment to browse the site. Feel free to scroll, but please don't click on anything yet. When you are ready, could you please describe what this site is for and who might use it? So it's a little bit more like pointed. We're kind of getting out of this. We don't really need that. So that's how I would kind of word it. Still a bit open-ended, but I might say, please briefly describe. But it will get us there a little bit faster, I feel like. I say these are more like opinion-based tasks, where these are more like action-based tasks. So opinion-based tasks are asking people for their opinion, and action-based tasks are asking people to do an action, which I'll explain why then this rating scale is attached to this. So imagine you and a friend want to take a short holiday together. You're both free in about 2 months and want to travel from London to Barcelona for a week. You'd like to leave on a Saturday and return the following Saturday. Your budget is $200 per person. You prefer to travel in the morning if possible. Please explore the site. See if you can find suitable flights for the trip. Don't book anything yet. Okay, this is okay, but I'm going to take the friend away. I'm going to say you want to take a short solo weekend holiday. I'm going to take away 2 months. You please look for flights from London to Barcelona for a weekend, leaving on a Friday and returning on a Sunday. Budget is nice because it's quite interesting. I'd have to check if this is okay. And you prefer to travel in the afternoon. I might take the budget away. Let me just see. So please search for the flights and stop when you have reached the search results page, the outbound search results page. So let's just pop over here. We're going London. Oh, gosh, it might not let me do Barcelona. No, I don't think you can go London Heathrow. I think you have to go London Gatwick to Barcelona. We'll do a Friday to Saturday. Yes. Okay, so 200 isn't bad, but also kind of pointless if I'm looking at these. But it might be interesting with the bundles. So this isn't the outbound search results page, the flight selection page. So as you can see here, we're doing a solo weekend holiday, flights from London to Barcelona for a weekend, leaving on a Friday and returning on a Sunday. Your budget, that's okay. I will leave that there because I will find it quite interesting when it comes to bundles. And you prefer to travel in the afternoon. Do we have that? Yeah. Okay. Please search for the flights. So always have an endpoint. I have this in the guide. Please always have an endpoint if you can, because you don't want people kind of like going off and doing whatever. So we want to have like a very clear endpoint of when the task is over, and that's totally fine. So as I was saying, this is the SEQ, which is the single ease questionnaire, which is a very valid and reliable survey question. So I would be very happy to keep this in. And as I said, you can tell here, I didn't attach it to an opinion-based task. I only attach single ease or any sort of rating scale questions to action-based tasks because like, I don't need you to tell me how easy or difficult, like essentially your opinion is. I only need it when it's related to an actual action. So how easy or difficult was it to find flights that matched your preferences? That's okay for me. Actually, it's not. I want this to be like almost like the next one. So I'm going to rearrange this a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is I actually don't want them to think about, all I want them to think about is the search. Because the next part is the more of like considering the departure times and details. So that's why I kind of changed that to be more pointed, right? So we were just looking at flights, and now we're on this flight selection page. So now comes the preferences. We don't really, it's hard because EasyJet isn't really like a comparison in that way, but we can do this. I don't like consider things like departure times, prices, and any other details that are important to you because like it might not be important to people. So I want to tell them that information. This is still a bit like too open-ended. So I'm going to say your budget for the flights is around 200 and you prefer to travel in the afternoon. Once you've compared the different options, we can say, please choose the one you would most likely book. And then we would go, okay, let's see, this one and this one. Let's say continue. Okay, yeah. Please stop at the choose a bundle page. And what's going to be annoying is like there's a different flow on the regular desktop and my weird. See if I can. I don't know what is wrong with it hating me. I'm going to try from Jersey, actually, because what I don't want to do is give people like the wrong flow. We're going to go to Greece, everybody. I am going to Greece. Yeah, so see how different this is? We're going to select this. We're going to select that. Okay, so it's the select your fare. And add extra luggage is all on here. Okay, we're going to abandon ship here. I've already messed up. Well, I mean, Jersey is expensive. See, Jersey is very expensive to travel from. Okay, so we went and we picked the flights. So then I need to say, please stop at the fares page. So we picked the flights. Oh God, I don't want to do this too many times because this is why it like kicked me out, I think. Stop at the fare. So then I want them to go through. What's joy? Enjoy. Bliss. Wow. What is happening? Oh, it's because I have 2 flights. I have 4 flights, technically. I'm not going to mess around with it because I'm too scared to change this now that this is letting me do this. So I'm going to have them select their fare and their extra luggage on this next one. So I'm going to have them do the 2 ones. But before I do that, I want to bring down this. So how easy or difficult was it to compare the different flight options for your trip? Next, try and start the process of reserving. Go as far as you can without entering any payment information. Stop right before. Yeah, this is a bit too broad. So I would, again, make this a bit more pointed. So next, please talk us through the different fare options you have available. Explain which one you would choose and why. And then add an 2-3 kilogram. After that, please add a 23-kilogram checked bag to your booking. Remember to think out loud as you go through this process. And then, let's see. And then please stop at the passenger. Please stop at the passenger page. Right. So this is actually a mix of a opinion and an action. I'm not going to, well, actually, I am going to ask the rating scale. How easy or difficult was it to add a checked bag to your booking? And then I will go and put in information. This is why I have when is Harry Potter born. So I will say in here, so this is where it's very important to put information in for people. So please input the following passenger details. Let's see, what are they? Title, first name, last name, date of birth. Title, Mr. First name, Harry. Last name, Potter. Date of birth. Harry Potter is going to Barcelona. July 31st. Harry Potter is 45 years old. That makes me ancient. And then contact information. So country code +44. I got this like free random. You can kind of see here, random generator. So country code is +44. What does it say? Phone and then email. Phone is this. And then email is, I think I literally did harrypotter@gmail.com. Yeah. Great. So there we are. And then I would say, please stop when you get to seat selection. Please stop when you get to the seat selection. I would not ask a rating scale on this because we're literally telling them exactly what to do because you have to give this information. There's no way to really go around it because you don't want people inputting this information. So now we want to say, next, please make a seat selection for both the outbound and inbound flights that doesn't incur any additional fees. Just because I want to make sure that they're like thinking about the fees. So that would be this. Next flight. This, next flight. This, next flight. This, next flight. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Please stop when you get to extras, to the extras page. So page here. And then we want to go down here. Beep, beep, beep. How easy or difficult was it to select your seats, right? Because we have an action based. I wouldn't do this because I have a feeling. Okay. I thought that it was going to take us to a third party, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to skip that. And we can say here, we're going to have to say here, you are not interested in driving around Greece or Barcelona in renting a car. Please skip the extras. Stop when you get to the protection page, right? Nothing to ask there. Very easy, straightforward. And then I would say here, this would be very, very similar to this, which is opinion based. So next, please talk us through the different, I would say, flight or trip protection options you have available. Explain each one you would choose or which one you would choose and why. Continue. And then we're at checkout, right? So please stop when you get to the checkout page. And then right here, finally, it would say, please review the checkout page and talk through anything that is confusing or missing. That would be like my last thing. How often do you use websites like this to arrange travel? Yeah, I wouldn't have thought to put that in there. So yay, AI. It might be interesting to put that in there just to see like what kind of user you have, if you have somebody who's used to doing this or not used to doing this. So yeah, that I would put in. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, very often. But I would change it. Because why not? How often have you used a website like this to plan travel in the past 6 months? Because I like time-bound things. So I would say how often. So never, rarely would be like 1 to 2 times, let's say. Sometimes would be like 3 to 4 times. Often would be like 5 to 6 times. Over 7 times is very often. So I would probably use this rather than the never, rarely, sometimes, often, very often, because this is like more exact. And I always like to put travel, like actual like parameters around this. You could go up to a year, you could say in the past 12 months, because I mean, 7 is like a lot. Yeah, I would say that. How does this site compare to other travel booking sites you've used before? It's much worse. I mean, I kind of want to put this in. Okay. I don't like writing keywords. It's not. No, I don't believe in this question. So I am going to get rid of that. The reason is it's like an MPS-based question, and I don't tend to use them because there's too much nuance to get that information out of one survey question. But I am going to use this. But you know what I'm also going to do is maybe ask, which websites have you used in the past 12 months to book travel? None. I haven't used any. And then I would probably say EasyJet competitors. Ryanair, British Airways, Jet2. Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. I hope somebody giggled. Cool. I would literally just do this. Ryanair, British Airways, Wizz Air, Jet2. Frequently asked questions is a competitor of EasyJet. That's kind of funny. Iberia Express. Lufthansa, yeah. I would love there to be like an other, but I'm not sure. So I just have to do that. I am going to put American Airlines and JetBlue and United Airlines in here, just because I am going to send this to Americans, which will be fun to watch. I could say that because I'm American. How does this site compare to other booking sites you have before? If you haven't used any, you can skip this question. That's fine. I want to leave this in the here just because I think it's like a really interesting, like I would never have asked this question. Like I would have never have thought to ask this question. So I think that I am going to leave this in here to see what we get. It's much worse. It's worse. It's similar. It's better. It's much better. Yeah, let's do it. Please explain your answer to the previous question. Is there anything you would change on this site? What is the number one thing you would change to make booking a flight easier on EasyJet? Just a little bit more pointed. Again, we want really specific questions. Anything else you would like to say? To add? Yeah, cool. I think we're good. Let's just take a quick look-see. Yeah. Let me take that out. I write with a lot of dashes. So, yeah. Solo weekend, holiday, London to Barcelona for the weekend, leaving on a Friday and returning on a Sunday. Yeah. Flight results page, the flight selection page. Budget is 200. You prefer to travel in the afternoon, which will give them some kind of understanding of filtering potentially or looking through. I might have killed it. Okay, we had a task, so we're going with the rating scale. Another task with an opinion and task. So we're going to ask to rate the task. We have this information, not going to put a task rating scale there because we just told them exactly what to do. Seat selection, task, skipping the extras, no rating. Opinion-based task, so no rating. Please review the checkout page. Again, opinion-based task, so no rating. How often have you used a website like this to plan travel in the past 12 months? Never. Which websites have you used in the past 12 months? I haven't used any. All of these. Single choice. Oh, sorry. I would say here, select as many as you need. No, Nikki. It's like sometimes I will have the easiest questions that I've written 1,000 times over, and I'll be like, how do you write that? Select all that apply. This wonderful question. This written response, written response. Okay, great. I'm happy with that. A little bit concerned. It's a little bit more than 15 minutes, but it probably shouldn't be. So let's get some testers, which is super exciting. So here we go. Device, desktop or laptop, country. We're going to go with US. I'm just trying to get the easiest and fastest amount of testers as we can. Age range, we're okay with this. Gender, no. Actually, kind of okay without having exclude people who did a test for you in the past. Oh, that's okay. You don't have to worry about that. So we have computer, US, we've taken away gender, we've taken away age range. I'm okay with that. So let's see. I'm going to put this to 10. When it comes to unmoderated testing, I would probably, if I have more credits, I would probably go a little bit higher, like maybe around 25, especially because we took out age and gender, and the US is a big place. But I'm okay with putting 12 in because I think we will get some really good information. Plus, like, it is a fairly straightforward flow, so I'm a little bit less concerned. So we're just going to place that order. Yay, we did it. And it didn't stop working. EasyJet worked. So this is, yeah, that I hope that was helpful. That walkthrough on how I would set up the test and how I would write those questions. As always, please refer back to the guide if you are having any problems with making this relevant for your work. And next, we are going to go into actually looking through the insights and using the AI insights, as well as how to like pull those insights out and frame them for business impact. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And yeah, I hope that was very helpful. Hello and welcome back to the next part of this amazing video. I'm really, really excited. So in part one, we've had a very short break. For me, it's been about 24 hours. For you, it will be about 2 seconds. But we have had a short break where I let the system run and gather the testers for our test. And I was super excited to see that within a few hours, I actually had all the test spots filled. So that was awesome. We got 12 people all within the criteria that I had set in terms of the recruitment. I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but you can see the testers here. There are 12 of them. And you will also see, because I got an email which I really appreciated, saying that my test was too long. So as you can see here, this was actually quite interesting. And I'll talk a little bit about what he experienced, which is what I experienced when I first started to try and go through this flow on EasyJet on the video that got deleted. But as you can see here, we did go above the 20 minutes. That is my fault. I would say for that, I should have made the flow stop a little bit earlier on, for instance, and maybe not gone through the entire kind of checkout funnel for this and maybe just focused on something like the search results. But we got a lot of really great information. And what I want to go through right now is to talk through how I tend to look at unmoderated tests and get the best information from them as possible. But you'll see here I am on the Userbrain interface, and they have several areas to look at when it comes to the results from the test. So we have the testers here, which is where we are. We have AI insights, clips, and a report area. So what I do normally when I am first going through the research, especially again for unmoderated tests, and I would say for these especially because they're quite long, is I will always go back to my research goals. So back here where I had talked about the importance of going through this and writing really strong research goals, here's where I would really capitalize on reminding myself what were the goals of this particular study so that I have them really fresh in my mind when I'm reviewing the work. Because what I don't want to do, especially with unmoderated testing, is get into the weeds. Of course, we can talk about things that happened that weren't necessarily in the scope of the study, but I want the main information that I take away and give to my stakeholders to be really, really connected to the research and the business goals that we had defined early on in the study when we all aligned on the kickoff and what we were trying to achieve. So that's something that I would first do because these are relatively short. I tend to listen through to them, and I will do that on 2x speed because I listen to everything on 2x speed. That is what I get from growing up before there were any sort of summaries. So I listen to pretty much everything on 2x speed. So I would actually go through and listen to each of these because they are relatively short, especially if you have the time. And I did want to take a look what happened with poor Michael. And I did. He encountered the same problem that I had encountered when I was trying to show the flow of EasyJet. So this is the same error that I got again in the video that got deleted. So I can't showcase that. But he was unable essentially to complete the test because he couldn't get past this error, which is phenomenally important. And had I been a researcher at EasyJet, this would have taken precedent over me synthesizing and doing the report. And this would have been the number one thing to go to the engineers. So that's why it's kind of important, at least from my side, to kind of look through on 2x speed and see, was there anything of huge note that we needed to fix or that was above critical or that was so important that it critically needed to be looked at immediately. Now, what I would do next, I haven't really looked into these things yet because I wanted to kind of showcase live what I would do rather than preparing too much, but I thought that it would be boring for you to all listen to all of these on 2x speed. So I did that on my own. But yeah, so here we are with AI insights, clips, and reports. I find this really interesting because, again, I grew up in a time where we didn't have anything like this. We didn't even have clips. I just posted on LinkedIn about how annoyed I am of making clips, for instance. And so what I would do next is I would look into the AI insights. And one of the reasons that I would want to refamiliarize myself with the goals is because I would actually want to test out this asking section about the goals. And we will try that in just a second. But here we have just the standardized positive feedback, usability issues, users confusion, unexpected interactions, interesting, negative feedback, user behavior, and suggestions. So those are all quite interesting for me. I don't really care about positive feedback. I don't tend to report on positive feedback. I'm mean. So I tend to care more about the problems than the positives, especially when it comes to building out a report for my stakeholders. I'm more than fine showcasing like people succeeding in the tasks because that is an important metric. But when it comes to the more qualitative side of things, of people telling me, yay, this thing worked, I don't care about that because if it worked, it worked. We don't need to work on it. If it didn't work, we need to fix it and we need to improve it. So I would be much more interested in the usability issues, the confusion area, the unexpected interactions. Yeah, that's okay. And the negative feedback. So that is what would be most interesting to me. So what I would probably do is I really like how this kind of highlights how many people. And there we go. We have the clips associated with it. So adding checked baggage was confusing or difficult to locate with unclear auctions and inconsistent pricing. And then
So I don't see it anywhere around here. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because I'm worried that I'm doing too much. So I'm just going to say yes. How is was it add the checkbox with booking?
gotcha.
Very easy because I still don't see it around here.
So if you see that, we actually had him on a weird flow. So there are two EasyJet flows, as we discovered when I went between incognito and my normal browser. So that seems like he got stuck in a different flow, which then means that my my task order must not have been 100% correct with him.
Back to your booking. I'm going to put 4 because I don't know why there are options to check your bag in 2 different places and why they are 2 different to put. Please talk us through the different fare options you. Please stop at the passenger page. So I guess I'll go ahead and continue here.
Gotcha. So, yep, that makes sense. There were 2 areas to kind of add that baggage, and this participant was talking through why there are 2 different prices. So, yeah, this is really great. And what I would do is probably go through and watch the rest of these clips, and this would become something that I would want to report on. So, now we have the flight comparison and selection interfaces. So again, unable to compare flight options, nothing loaded. Great, fun. Comparison feature, no, there was not that. Yeah, filtering, sorting by price, great. So again, what I really like about this is there's the main headline of what's wrong, and then there's the evidence essentially in clips, which I really, really appreciate. So what I would do at this next step is check out the ones that are 4 or 5 and above, probably 5 and above, ideally. So this as well and this as well. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm most interested in things that happen for 5. 4 is like an interesting one, kind of, but 5 or 6 or more people is where I would be interested in really honing in, because to me that delineates a bigger pattern. Coming back to this, I'm actually curious how this works. I know that we didn't set any particular research goals for this flow and this test because we are going in and just testing the booking flow. But what I could imagine for one of the goals is to discover any major pain points that are associated with the booking process. And I would imagine that I worked in travel, so it's easy for me to kind of think through this, that the higher up in the funnel, the more important it is to be able to get people through the entire funnel. So what that means is the top of the funnel being like the search and the search results. Because if people drop off there, you're losing a higher volume of people than if you get all the way to like the end of the funnel and there is an issue. People are a little bit more likely to try and push forward or find solutions because they've put in time and effort. But if you're losing people right at the beginning of the funnel, so the search or the search results, then you're more likely to, one, lose them and lose them forever. So what I would probably expect would be an interesting thing to understand is what were the major pain points when it came to searching for flights. And let's see that, because I would expect that to be something that stakeholders would be very interested in. And I would assume that that would be a question that stakeholders would be interested in understanding more about to fix things. I'm curious if I can like hop around while it does that. No, I don't think so. Yeah. So we have the stop button here. Oh, great. Okay. So we have critical site errors, so the bugs. So that's the error code. And then this person, what I found very interesting, this other person also errored out and tried to troubleshoot the error. So if I was in real life and I encountered a similar error, I'd just simply, close the tab and never consider using this site. So there we go. That is quite interesting. And I think, no, she didn't. Yeah, she did manage to circumnavigate it slightly. Yeah, as you can see here, eventually she did. Took her 10, almost 11 minutes. So we have those critical errors when it came to searching, difficulty entering or selecting destinations. So a few people really failed at putting in Barcelona, and that is because there are multiple London airports. So if we go here,
When I put in Barcelona here, it's not letting me search.
so if you can see here, this person has chosen London Heathrow, and London Heathrow doesn't fly to Barcelona. London Gatwick does. I think Luton does as well. But what I did is there are two things. I knew that going into this, and I could have specified the person put in London Gatwick or London Luton, but I decided not to because I wanted to see if this could be a potential issue. And here we have is the major pain points. 3 people encountered this, right? Now we have difficulty finding or comparing multiple flight options for specific dates and criteria, confused about outbound, inbound, and how to compare, expected a direct comparison feature, currency and 24-hour time format. That I'm less concerned about because it's actually usually not Americans using EasyJet. So that I'm less concerned about. But we honed in to the major pain points when it came to searching for flights, which I really appreciate. So whenever I'm building a report, it's great to see, while it's great to see like these issues, the general confusion, the pain points, the negative feedback, while that's all really great to see, that can sometimes be a little bit too vague for me. So I would go in and write about like the goals that I have set for this particular test. So the major pain points when it came to searching for flights, I would also say what were the major issues when it came to selecting a seat, right? So I might probe on several points of the journey to see what those issues were. And then I could imagine writing a report for something like this in a few different ways. For instance, something like by research goal. I really like to write reports by research goal. I also am happy to write reports by business goal. That's another one that's quite interesting. Or you could write this particular report by like the task. So each task and then the associated pain points or issues with each task. So there are a few different ways that you could definitely go about this. So we have here what were the major issues when it came to selecting a seat. So could not find any seat options that did not incur additional fees. So this is actually something that I wanted to see happen. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video, but I remember in one of the videos, and I think it was this one, sitting down and being like, oh, you actually can't choose a seat ahead of time for free if you're on the basic fare. So I'm glad that that was picked up. Okay, and then we have general issues. And then again, distinguishing seats requiring extra fees, and then the outbound inbound issue again. So this is great in the terms that it's highlighting these issues and then showcasing the evidence of those issues, which I really appreciate. So yeah. Looks like from what I can see, all the seating selections will cause you to have to pay a bit more, right?
Sorry.
So what I love about this, like the ease is just fantastic, is that I could just click on that and easily get a clip. So I would continue to probe the data. One thing that I might do is actually go back, and when I plan my research, I tend to have like questions from stakeholders, and I might, if it makes sense, pop those questions in here as well to get those direct questions answered and get the evidence for those so that when I go and do the report, I am directly answering the questions that stakeholders asked me. So that's another thing that I would do here. Now we have clips. We have 113 clips, which is more than I could do on my own. And we can filter by task, which is fantastic. Tester and tags. Tags being, yeah, the same kinds of like things on the AI insights. do wish that we could like maybe create a tag. It would be interesting to be able to almost like when we went into the AI insights and like looked at these, it would be so interesting to be able to potentially add a tag of like research goal 1 and be able to then showcase the clips with that. But this is great. I really appreciate the editing, the sharing. Great. Okay. Awesome. Copying link. That's fantastic. And then downloading. Okay. I will delete that from my computer. So great. And so you can easily download them, which I really appreciate because not a lot of softwares will give you the ability to just simply download something. So I would probably as well go through here a little bit and look at the different tasks. And I wanted to see, okay, yeah, I want to see this. So, and then we have the report, which I am really excited about. So we have this report, I guess, from my side looks like we have the 12 testers, we have the, I guess, demographics, and then it shows it by task and the level of success or lack thereof, which is interesting. And then we have the rating scale, which I do quite appreciate. And what's cool about this actually is we have with the rating scale, I haven't really seen this that much. We have with the rating scale evidence, which is fantastic. So yeah, we're kind of heading into this with success and lack of success. And then again, we have a really interesting spread here. And we have this more opinion-based question with the checked bag issue, which is just absolutely spread out. I love that. Great. Yeah, there were a lot of issues, which I found so interesting. Yeah. Gosh, there were just so many issues. It's unreal. Okay. And then selecting seats again. So yeah, gosh, yeah. I think it's such a problem. Like imagine being on EasyJet and at EasyJet and trying to test a flow when you don't know which flow your participants are actually going to land on. So that is not helpful. Great. So this is quite interesting. We have quite a few people who have never used a website like this to plan travel. Then we have some people who have done it quite a few times. And then we have, yeah, a lot of people using American-based airlines, which makes sense. And then we have a lot of this. Okay, that's awesome too. I'm so glad that we asked this question. And yeah, great. Okay, cool. So what I would do here is I would look over, as I just did, all of this information. I would probably in this case, I would go with the most critical issues and I would just go right into like having a meeting with my stakeholders about the erroring issues. And then I would have a meeting with them about the two different flows and we would have probably dealt with that anyways beforehand. But imagine if we hadn't, I would be talking to them about that. And then I would get into writing the report. And for that, between the AI insights and kind of asking both research question-based questions to the AI and then also asking any stakeholder questions, I would use that to kind of write the beginning of my report of the most important information that has come out. And then I would also look at this and use this, especially the rating scales, to help with showcasing the difficulty or ease of the different action-based tasks. So that's what I would kind of do next, which I very much appreciate how easy looking at this information is. And then I would probably pull out these probably these 6 people and figure out who it was that, yeah. So the people who have booked or used a website to plan travel like this in the past 12 months, I would probably weight their responses a little bit more. So I would highlight those people, and then looking back on the evidence of the insights, I would probably again rate their information a little bit more important because they have utilized similar websites in the past, which means that they have the flow in mind, that this is something that they're familiar with, and that they have done this in the past on a different website. I would also look at this too and use this to say, okay, who booked? Unfortunately, we have like lots of others, but who used United and American? And then who rated this as much worse or worse, right? And utilize that kind of cross tabulation in a way of understanding, okay, this person has used websites 5 to 6 times and they have used United and American Airlines and they've said that it's much worse, and then kind of dig into that. So I would try and like layer on a little bit of that analysis just to showcase what would be quite interesting is when people are saying it's much worse or it's worse, what are they in their mind comparing it to? This person was one of the people with the issues, with the bug issue. Yeah. Okay. So we have here, it's worse. And this person compared the site unfavorably to others. So I would want to look and see who it is. HM. Okay. So we have H, and HM has used, okay, other, unfortunately. So we don't know exactly which one, but he has booked quite a few times, right? And so then I would want to look at this person, HH, who has used United. So there we go, and has booked 3 to 4 times. So then this person would be comparing against United, likely in their mental model. So that would be something that I would probably pull up for stakeholders as well, so that we have an understanding of when we say it, when they say it's much worse, what in their mental model might they be comparing it to. So yeah, and then I would pull these stats out to showcase it's much worse to it's worse. Got the majority of votes from people. Who said it's better? Wow. Have they've used other airlines too. And they've booked quite a few times. So that's quite interesting. So then you always have an outlier. Right. And then you have this, which is any sort of understanding of why they rated it in that particular way. So this breaks it down a little bit more. And then what might you change? Fix all the errors. Yeah. Yeah. Live chat with support, troubleshooting options, makes sense. And then just general kind of anything else you would like to add, which is great. So this is what I would do is pull out the task success. So I'm trying to think of how I would end up actually writing this report. And I think that I would do it since there were like pretty interesting issues with each step. What I would probably do is write this report by task and use the clips by task, which is great, to showcase like the big errors. That's probably how I would do that. And then I also wanted to go into this here, which is connecting questions to metrics and impact. This is the last section on the guide, which I really, really recommend taking a look at. So looking at things like the product, the user, and the business, and how to then showcase that these would impact something that stakeholders are very interested in, like conversion, activation, engagement, retention, and efficiency. So what I would probably also say is this is interesting. We have key metrics here. There were 20 tasks, 75% task rate, test duration, date of test. Okay. I was just seeing if there was any different information on here. What I would probably do here is, because this is a checkout flow and we are hoping for a conversion, so somebody to convert and purchase something, then I would highlight for these tasks how it impacts conversion. So for instance, if we've had, so this is the top of the funnel where 2 people have already been unsuccessful right here. So we are looking at 10 people who have been successful, 2 people who have not been successful. So we've lost out essentially on 2 conversions, essentially at the first task, because this was a talk through, what the site is about. So at the top of our absolute top of our funnel, first task, we've lost out on 2 people. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but let's think about the budget that we set for people, which is 200, right? So if we think about 10 successful people, here we'll just do some math, times 200, we've made 2,000. And if we think about 2 unsuccessful people, we've lost 400, right? So then we're at, right, 2,000 minus 400. So 1,600. So if we think about this on a larger scale and we say we multiply everything by 10, right? The 200,000, pretty good. 4,000. So again, down to 16,000. So for every 10 people, we are losing 2 people. That's something that I would really, really highlight. So our conversion, and that's just at funnel 1. That's probably why I would do this by task, because I would want to break down, like, as we get through, how people are less and less successful. So for instance, if we look at this, I think this is the same 2 people that were unsuccessful. Yeah. And then we go to here and we have a lack of success here. So unable to proceed with the passenger details. It's not working. Right. And then we get here, which is the not successful being 3. So this all just like compounds on itself in terms of a lack of success. So I would go step by step to kind of show like, okay, yay. Yeah, it's not that bad. We're only losing 400 for every 2,000, right? So we're averaging out on 1,600 with this. But then I would say, okay, but what about the people who then fail at the next one, at the next one, at the next one? And when it gets down to it, who are the people who actually just successfully made it through? How many of those out of the 12 actually successfully made it through every single task without a problem? And that's how you start to look at things like conversion. So this looks at your completion rate. So how many people were able to successfully convert without a real issue, right? And that would then impact your retention. So for people who are at the top of the funnel, and there was even a quote that said this, and I would pull that quote of right here, if this was real life, I would just close the tab and never consider using this site. Right. So I would pull that quote as well. So now we have not only a conversion issue, but a retention issue because we have top of funnel issues. So I would then build this report utilizing the task by task and breaking it down for what went wrong on each task, and then showcasing for each task the relevant KPIs that we decided on when it came to business goals and the business impact of the study. You can also look at efficiency, which leads to support ticket volume, or retention. So people being able to self-serve without help. that became a problem as well. So now we're looking at essentially within this very test, we're looking at 3 very important KPIs that have to do with this directly has to do with revenue. Efficiency has to do with revenue as well, but it also could be support costs. So what are the costs of people reaching out to support for things that they should be able to self-serve on? That's why it's important to remember to go back and say, yes, it's very, very interesting and good to highlight that 2 people failed, but what are the implications of that? Right? So how does that relate back to those research goals that we had defined, which leads to those business goals that we had defined, which is why it's just so, so important to start out with those in mind. Because when you have those in mind at the start of the project, not only are you able to write more pointed questions that get you the information that you need, but when it comes to your report, it's pretty straightforward on what you should be writing about. And that's why I love stuff like this, like with the Userbrain dashboard, is I've already in my head, I know what I need, what information I need to get out for my stakeholders, and I can ask it directly. I could easily look through the clips and I can easily look through this report. And honestly, I think you could just edit task, but you could just simply take a screenshot of this and be able to place this into a report to showcase, the numbers behind it, as well as like the rating. You could very easily showcase this too of, okay, like for each rating scale, this is what we got. But it just makes it so much easier when you start out with that success in the beginning of really understanding what it is that you need to be looking for. And that comes through those research goals, those business goals. And then it's so much easier to tie those back in the end with the report when you have them at the beginning. So I do really recommend reading this guide and checking this out. And I hope that this walkthrough was helpful on kind of how I would go through and not only just set up the test, but also go about analyzing it. And again, what I would recommend doing for something like this is going through and writing the report on a task by task basis. I would obviously not put in task 1, but starting at task 2. So going through each of those tasks and reporting the things that didn't work and the relevant business problems with that. So really highlighting, and I would probably go between this report and like these usability issues and confusion and the negative feedback. I would go through, kind of bounce between that and asking this directly, and then looking through any clips. So looking through, like, of course, the task 3, and then we could layer on the negative feedback, which is fantastic, or the usability issues, which is great. So we're layering these on. So it just makes it easier to sift through. But I would say one of the most important things is to be very, very clear at the beginning what those goals are, both from the research and the business side, because whenever I've ever had any doubt in my mind of what I should be putting into a report, it's because I didn't do that well enough in the beginning. So please take a look at the guide. I hope that this was helpful to kind of walk you through how I would think about this and how I would use a dashboard and a software like this. I just want to shout out Userbrain too for being so awesome and letting me run this test on the platform and getting me those 12 participants so quickly. It was really nice to see, because unmoderated usability testing is supposed to be about efficiency. So it was nice to be able to do this so efficiently. I could imagine how awesome it would be to set this up on Friday and come back on a Monday and have your test done, which is awesome. So I really recommend trying out Userbrain if you can. And I know that Userbrain do offer a free trial with awesome credits. So I do recommend trying them out, and I will put the link in the show notes as well as in the guide. But I hope that this was so helpful. Thank you so much for your time and listening to me and watching me go through this. And yeah, I just hope that, next time you're faced with an unmoderated test, this video and this guide can kind of help walk you through it so that you can do it as quickly as possible, yes, but also as effectively as possible, really getting the information that your stakeholders need, and then being able to turn that into business impact and really showcasing how valuable research can be, even just an unmoderated test, and how much information that it can get you. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I will talk to you soon.